Welcome to the T&T Honda Podcast. Whether you're buying a new or used vehicle, servicing and maintaining your current vehicle, or following the latest trends in the auto industry, T&T Honda is steering you straight. Thanks for listening, and let's get on with the show. Today on the T&T Honda Podcast, we're talking all about how Navros hires his team, what he looks for, and what kind of questions he might be asking. But I'd love to kick this off by learning a little bit about your experience as you have climbed up the ladder at T&T and, of course, with Honda.
I started back here in December of 1999. So what is that now? 21 years, I think I just celebrated last December.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. And at 21 years, I'm actually still one of the new people at T&T Honda.
Really?
Yes. So we've got people who have been here for 30 plus years.
Wow.
Yeah. So in the car industry, that is very, very rare.
Yeah.
So I think that speaks volumes about what goes on here at T&T from an employee perspective. We've got so many long tenured people that you actually don't see a lot of in any industry, let alone the car industry.
Right.
So I think it's an amazing environment to be in. And I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as for my history, I started here in 1999. My previous background was in banking and in real estate. So I was with the Royal Bank after I graduated from university for about 5 years. And then after that, I did real estate for about 3 years. And then I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be in the car business. But a friend of mine talked to me about it, said, hey, I think you'd be great in the finance department at T&T Honda, since I was working at the bank at the time. And that's kind of how it all started. So I started off in finance, and I have worked in pretty much every position in the front of the dealership. So sales management, business development, used car manager, new car manager, and now I look after the whole store, and it's tons of fun.
Amazing. I love that. So that is huge. Like you said, in any industry, to have people on your team who have been there for such a long time, that really does speak volumes. But there's a really important element to that, and that is hiring the right people, making sure that it's the right position for the right person, because that's probably what leads on to them staying for such a long time. You have to find the perfect person and put them in their perfect role. So how do you go about building the team at T&T Honda?
So I think there's quite a few facets to that. Number one, it's obviously in that initial interview. So what we're really looking for is not necessarily the skills that the employee has or the potential employee has. We're more looking for the attitude,
right,
and the aptitude.
Yes.
So if they have the right attitude and they have the aptitude, then we can teach them whatever that role is.
Yes.
Right. So I think that's really those two key things. So if they have those attitude and aptitude qualities about them, then we can mold them into various different things. So that's the first thing, is we're not necessarily looking at, oh yeah, you have to have previous experience at the dealership. We're happy to train from the ground up. And in a lot of cases, my example, particularly, never in the car business before. I was, brought in, trained, put to work, trained again, put to a different job role, and so on and so on. Yeah. And that progression in my own career is really what we want to see in everybody's career.
Right.
So I would highly encourage, any of the employees we have, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step in your career? And what do we have to do to be able to get you there? So given the option of hiring from outside or promoting from within, we're always going to look at promoting from within first,
right,
whenever possible. So, a lot of the ways that people look at, okay, how do I get into a dealership? For us, it's really, you start at the grassroots and work your way up. For some people, they just want to be plugged in at mid-management or high-level management and stuff like that. But we feel that is, whenever possible, something that our own employees should get first crack at, rather than hiring from outside.
What do you think makes a good salesperson?
So number one, personality. So they have to be obviously people who like to be around people and enjoy serving. They have to have that service mentality.
Right.
Because if they serve customers well if they're happy, friendly, give the information that the customer is looking for, the sale will take care of itself. I mean, we
Right.
sell quality products, so I'm not worried about that. I don't have to force anybody or convince anybody into, hey, you got to buy a car, you got to buy a car, you got to service here. No,
Mm-hmm.
as long as we're good to people, we're fair with them. Um, they themselves will say, yeah, I'm happy and I'm comfortable here and I will do business here.
Right.
So they need to be of that service mentality and that service attitude.
What are the specific elements that come into play when you're training that create the foundation of your team at T&T Honda?
We strive to do a very good training program. So how that works is basically we have a whole bunch of mandatory courses that a new salesperson has to go through from Honda, and all of those are related to product knowledge.
Right.
And then over and above that, we talk about T&T Honda and how we do things here, what our philosophy is, what our processes are. So we actually have classroom training for our new hires as well. And it actually starts by talking about the steering you straight philosophy that,
Right.
and, I get a chance to sit with all the new hires and share with them the vision and the mission statement of steering you straight,
Right.
what that means, what we expect of them to be part of the organization, and what that whole kind of in a nutshell will look like in the course of their career.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's that opportunity to connect with them one-on-one in these, let's call them classroom training sessions. So all of the managers take turns on various different topics. So we spend time with them in the boardroom discussing various different things, showing them how to be successful, what our expectations are to make those very, very clear. And I think that's a lot of it. It comes down to the communication.
Right.
There's a lot of times where, you get onto a particular job or a role and you're just thrown into it.
Yes.
So I remember this one example. I guess I chuckle about this to this day. My very, very first job that I was super excited to get while I was in school was working at McDonald's.
Okay.
Right? I was training on the French fry station one day. There was this young girl who was my team lead supervisor, whatever it was, and she was trying to teach me how to fry fries.
Uh-huh.
Okay? You would think that it's a pretty straightforward process. Not for me. And this kind of goes back to this whole idea of training.
Mm-hmm.
So let me explain to you what this, and I'm thinking back a long time. So basically you have your vat of oil, right, where the frozen French fries go into. You got to dump in a bag of fries into this basket. The basket goes in the oil. You push this timer thing. And when it beeps, you're supposed to take out that basket, shake it, put it back in. Okay. Yeah. Now, the way she explained it to me, or the way I understood it, it was like, okay, as soon as I take it out of the fryer for that shake, 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 I got to hit that timer button. Right. And that was wrong because that stops the timer. Right. So I did that over and over and over again because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. But either I didn't get it or she didn't convey it to me properly that, no, dummy, don't hit the timer. Okay, that just tells you take it out, shake it, and then put it back in. When it hits again, that's when you're done frying the fries and they're perfectly golden brown and delicious. But yeah, I burned a few batches of fries and she was not happy until, somebody else finally came along and said, hey, buddy, do this. And when they explained it to me, I got it. Yes. So in that really simple, okay, do I push the button or not push the button? Just in the way that it was communicated, it wasn't clear to me.
Right.
So I think when we're talking about training, and I mean, this is selling cars is simple, but it's not as simple as frying fries.
Yes, yes.
So when it comes to our training that we talk about, we really try and break it down in such a way that it's very, very understandable to people at various different levels. We may have people who have previous experience. We may have people who have zero experience. So I got to break it down in such a way that it makes sense to everybody at their level of understanding. The other thing that we really, I think, do a good job of is when we do training, it's not just, me yammering on forever and ever and ever and these people falling asleep in class. We try and make it interactive, engaging. We give them exercises to do, so they can solidify their learning. So for example, when I'm talking about leasing versus financing, I actually give the new employees some math questions to figure out so they can truly understand what are the differences between leasing and financing. How is one better than the other or not in a particular situation? So therefore, if they can gain that understanding, now they can convey that same message to all the customers that are there in front of them. So I think it really comes down to the why of what we're doing. So give the explanation, not just say, look, this is how we do it. This is how we do it because of this, right? So I really strongly believe in no matter what we're telling people, we have to give them the why.
What sort of questions will come up in an interview for employment at T&T?
I've got a few favorite questions that I like to ask people. One of them for me is, where do they see themselves 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 10 years from now? And that kind of gives me an idea of, are these people just looking for a job?
Right.
Or are they thinking more long term?
Yes.
Right. So again, like we talked about in another podcast, a vision.
Yes.
Right. So the business has a vision. Does the person have a vision? Yeah. And do those two tie in together? Yeah. Right. Is this somebody just looking for a paycheck? Or is this somebody looking to actually become part of the fabric of the organization? Right. To learn, to grow, to advance, and to serve. Yeah. Right. So is that the type of individual that I have in front of me or not? And a lot of times when I ask that question, I'll just be quiet. I won't say anything, right? I will give them time to think, because sometimes they don't get asked those kinds of questions, or they haven't thought about it. Yeah. You know, there's been a couple of times where people have, after the interview, they've emailed me or called me and said, hey, that was a really, really tough question because I'd never thought about that. Now that I've had a few hours or a few days to think about it, I know what I'd like to do, right? And here it is. Right. So it's pretty cool to see that, you know, maybe just in an interview, whether or not they get hired here, maybe I've sparked a little bit of thought, or we've sparked a little bit of thought in somebody as to where do they see themselves down the road? What is their vision for their own lives, for their own careers, that kind of thing. And maybe I'm talking at too high a level here, but, you know, this is kind of where I see things for us.
You mentioned you get the emails a little while later sometimes where people have had more time to think about it. Have you ever had an interview with someone who was suddenly like, actually, you know what? This has totally changed my goal.
This thing that we talk about, where do you see yourself in the future, or what do you want to be when you grow up, in quotes, right? You know, that is a very, very deep question. Yes. Right? It can be super simple and say, oh, I want to be rich, right? Or I want to be successful. But really, how do you get there? Right? And what are you going to do in the 10, 20, 30, 40 years that God's given you on this earth in your working career to be able to get there? Right. So yeah, it can be a very profound moment. And I've actually experienced in people that I'm interviewing that light bulb kind of go on, and you can kind of see it above their head. Yeah. Right. It's like, whoa. That's great. Right. And then they're talking differently. Their attitude's a little bit different. So yeah, it's very, very cool to see. Nice. And everyone you interview, are they obsessed with cars and the automobile industry, or are they from all different interests and all different areas? There is some commonality when it comes to cars. And I think, you know what, just being somebody who lives in our society, there's always that thing of, yeah, I like cars. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But there's different levels of that. There's like the crazy, I'm into this, that, and the other thing type of car lovers. Yeah. And then there's those, you know, as long as I get around type of car people. Yes. So there is a bit of a streak that we see that these people have some higher level connection to automobiles. Okay. Right. Maybe there's a particular car that they have as a dream car, or maybe their family members had this particular really cool piece or something like that, right? Or they really love to play with Hot Wheels or stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, there is a bit of a deeper connection when it comes to the automotive space in most of the people that we hire. However, that's not always true. Sometimes it has more to do with them having an environment where they can actually be around different types of people. Yeah. Right? Because that's another skill set that really attracts people to this business, because we're always in front of new people,
Yes.
Getting to learn about them, getting to know about them, and helping serve them. For me, I think that's one of the big things that brings me joy here, because I'm always able to talk to somebody new, somebody different, have a different conversation, have a different level of understanding with people.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's really, really cool, because otherwise, day in, day out, you could do the same functions over and over again, but it's that interaction with different people, different personalities that really gets my juices flowing.
Yes.
And I think for most of the people around here, the successful ones, that's what keeps them going as well, is that interaction with others.
Okay. So where do you post your open positions? Where can people learn more about getting employment with T&T Honda?
So we posted on all the major job boards like Indeed and LinkedIn. We also have postings on our own internal website as well.
Mm-hmm.
So basically anywhere that anyone would look, that's where we're going to be.
So the automobile industry it's a large industry. There's a lot of car dealerships everywhere, and especially in Calgary too. So what happens if you have an employee that maybe sees a little sparkly offer over on the other side of the city, but then maybe it's not quite what they thought it was? What's an example of that?
So it's very funny that you mentioned that. It happens more often than you think.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a wonderful environment here to work in, and people, they get this idea that, oh, if I move over somewhere else, maybe there's a different opportunity or more money or whatever the case is. There's been so many instances where I've had people leave, and we always talk to them before they go, right? Because we are a family, and that's the way I treat everybody here. We always talk to them and say, okay, look, is it something we've done? What are you after? I'm never going to hold somebody back if there is an absolute wonderful opportunity for them to move their careers forward that I can't offer at this particular point in time. I wish them the best of luck, all the best, and keep that connection going. But there's sometimes where they're just chasing the dollar or that opportunity without knowing all the facts and all the information, only to find out once they get there, it's not quite what they expected. Right. And the comment I get back from most of the people who go and then phone us and say, I screwed up.
Oh,
it's not what I expected. Can I come back home? That's the word they use.
Really?
Can I come back home?
That's huge.
Yeah. Right. So they feel that this place is home.
Yes.
Right. And that's that one word that they use more than anything else. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like home. I want to come back home.
Amazing.
Right.
What do you say?
Exactly. And I mean, one of the many things I've learned from Izzy is that it's always okay to give people a second chance.
Amazing.
Because those tend to be the employees that tend to stick around for the longest time after that.
Right.
Because they've tasted what the outside world looks like.
Yeah.
And it's not the same as what's here.
Right.
Right. The environment that we have here, I can't explain it. You have to experience it.
Yes.
Right. And no matter what I say, nobody will believe you until you've actually had time to experience it.
Yeah.
Right. But this whole idea of a second chance, I think is phenomenal. Right. Yeah. Not from the point of view that you can go try out whatever you want and T&T is always going to take you back. No. Right. It's a matter of that it has to be something that's mutually beneficial to both. But there has been occurrences where we have allowed people to come back, into maybe the role that they had left or something similar or whatever the case may be, and they have thrived. Right. They have flourished here. And the amount of enthusiasm they bring with them when they come back, I couldn't ask for a better advocate.
Amazing.
Because then they go around talking to everybody else. Yeah, it might be like this out there, or you might think it's like that out there. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's really like this. Look at me. I went, I tried it, made a mistake. They were good enough to take me back.
If you are interested in learning more about employment with T&T Honda, head over to tnthonda.ca. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the T&T Honda Podcast. We'll be back with lots more for you very soon. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like, share, and of course subscribe to keep up to date with everything that's going on. In the meantime, check out tnthonda.com and we'll be back with another episode very soon.
'Cause T&T Honda steering you straight.